In the previous video, I talked about ASEAN in depth. Now, let's discuss ASEAN's pros and cons and explain them in depth. Hi, I'm Hugo, and I love researching into extraordinary topics. First, let's explore ASEAN's advantages. ASEAN, as I said before, is just like with their other international organization counterparts, like the EU and the UN, is complex and complicated. But it doesn't mean that ASEAN cannot have any good or bad things about it. Most likely, they have a mix of the two. For example, according to the ASEAN website, Vietnam in ASEAN toward cooperation for mutual benefits. When Vietnam was transitioning into becoming an ASEAN member state, it was and is currently also transitioning its economy from a centrally run agricultural economy to becoming a socialist market economy, which is an economy with a combination of capitalist and socialist features. To add, compared to Vietnam's pre-1990s era, where Vietnam basically traded the most with Soviet bloc states, now Vietnam is trading more with ASEAN member states and with Asian partners like Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and non-Asian region partners like those in the European Union or EU. In this, Vietnam's integration into ASEAN is greatly accelerating its ability to grow not just in itself, but across the region and the world, to become more developed, to better the quality of life for Vietnam, and even more, strengthen relations between Vietnam and its neighbors and non-neighbors in the region and in the world. While Vietnam's growing economic status shows how ASEAN benefited and continues to benefit nation-states in the economic front, ASEAN's commitment to peacefully settling security disputes, like the South China Sea dispute, represents ASEAN's desire to peace than war in the Asia-Pacific region. To illustrate, according to the ASEAN website, joint statement of the ASEAN-China Special Summit to commemorate the 30th anniversary of ASEAN-China Dialogue Relations Comprehensive Strategic Partnership for Peace, Security, Prosperity, and Sustainable Development, ASEAN and China determined themselves to dialoguing about the region's security interests at the ASEAN-China Special Summit in late 2021. This coincides with the Voice of America story titled India-ASEAN Meeting Highlighting Challenges from China-U.S. Rivalry, Ukraine War, where the Indian Foreign Minister Subrahmanyam Jai Shankar said that among many things, ASEAN's position in dealing with the new worldwide challenges, like the war in Ukraine, are important, where the foreign minister emphasized the need to deepen relations between India and ASEAN. ASEAN's successes, as shown through benefiting Vietnam's economic prowess, as well as through its dedication to secure peace in the South China Sea, showcases ASEAN's ability to be a constructive and cohesive international organization in the Asia-Pacific region. Though, from now knowing ASEAN's pros, what are ASEAN's cons? As stated on the Diplomat article titled, ASEAN is failing on the South China Sea issue. Among many things, China isn't following its commitments made with the South China Sea Code of Conduct document in 2002, where China rather has been bolstering its military positions in the South China Sea, like with turning disputed islands like the Spratlys into fortified military outposts in aims of controlling the waterways around the South China Sea. In this, ASEAN basically couldn't do much more than give a voice to its individual member states, like through the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, where President Duterte warned in late June that the South China Sea is becoming an increasingly dangerous region thanks to China's aggressions in the area. Hence, this is why ASEAN's members, like Singapore, look to the United States to intervene and help enforce actions in countering China's bullying behavior in the South China Sea. ASEAN's weaknesses in failing to enforce its collective views in countering the aggressiveness of China shows the limits of the international organization in being able to be a platform for all, but in not being a worldwide authority, rather a Socratic seminar for its members. But even with ASEAN's weaknesses, is ASEAN a good or bad organization? I would argue that it is too simple to say that ASEAN has failed because we have all seen ASEAN's achievements, and knowing ASEAN's failures, it's natural to say as we live on this imperfect world that there will always be failures and achievements in everyone, including you and I. For instance, the organization's need to rely on the U.S. in countering China's aggressions in the South China Sea is important, as the U.S. is willing to help the organization through strengthening ASEAN's weaknesses with its own superpower status. As stated in a UN mission to ASEAN website in regards to the South China Sea and the U.S.'s response to China's aggressions there in 2020, the United States of America continues to be a strong and committed partner to the nations of the Asia-Pacific region, including with trading over $300 billion in goods and services to the millions of people living within the ASEAN member states. Likewise, the United States strengthened its stance in devoting itself to protecting peace and security in the Asia-Pacific region from China in order to counter China's bullying behaviors in the region. So even when ASEAN is weak in not being able to enforce its views, ASEAN is not alone, as it relies upon reliable and helpful allies like the United States of America in helping maintain peace, cultivating prosperity, and ultimately making a difference in the region. Hence, this boils down to one simple question. Can we really determine if something is good or bad? For instance, is ASEAN good or bad? As said many times over the course of this video, the truth is ASEAN is a complicated organization that contains many good and bad traits to it. Just like the other organizations and governments said in previous videos, like with the European Union in Europe and the United States government in itself. There can be things, organizations, and people who can be genuinely good or bad. But for the most part, this world has a lot of complex gray zones where good and bad traits and details exist together, not apart. Thank you for watching my video, and merci et à bientôt.